Hello, this is the Conquering Hill podcast, and I'm your host, Nicholas Ganger. And today I have a very special guest joining me. Her name is Elizabeth McCormick. She is a decorated U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter pilot. She flew air assault, command and control, top secret intelligence missions, and transported high level government VIPs, transitioning from her military service to corporate management with her business background, including being an international contract negotiator and commodity manager in purchasing and supply chain for global corporations. Elizabeth is now an in demand motivational keynote speaker named by Choice Point Health as one of the top 30 motivational speakers in the world, and a leadership expert, currently number 4 on the list of leadership experts to follow online. Her authority on leadership and customer experience, military and veterans issues is highly sought after with the media. She is frequently seen on ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, CW, and the Wall Street Journal, and was just recently live on CNN for a segment on flying helicopter. Her personal development book, The Pilot Method, The Five Elemental Truths to Leading Yourself in Life, is a must read along with her 19 plus business tip books and a Soar to Success series on leadership and entrepreneurial topics. All right, so
That's a long
you are,
bio. That's
yeah,
a long bio.
it's a long bio,
You
but
didn't
you
even read
know
the whole
what?
thing.
You're
It's
doing
okay.
great things, so that's why it's so long. And well, I number one, I appreciate you coming on the program today. So let me first ask you, why did you join the military?
I was unemployment. Yeah.
Mm,
So I was an unemployed military wife with
mhm.
5 years of college, almost three college degrees, and I was unemployed. I finally did get a job though. So yep, working in a pizza place. And I was just miserable, right?
Mhm.
So there's times in your life where you just know you're not doing the right things, right? And you're not in the
True.
right place. And I feel like you have to really listen to that intuition and listen to what your body, your mind, your soul is screaming for. And I was just miserable. The marriage wasn't working out either, but that was another story. So,
Mhm.
but professionally, I just knew that this is not what I was supposed to do, and I had to look for a change.
Yeah, well, that's a drastic change, right? From working in the pizza joint to flying helicopters. So, why did you want to fly a helicopter?
So it was the coolest job. I was 23 years old, almost 24 years old, and that's really like, okay, I'm going to join the military because I'm a military spouse. I'm, thinking long term, right, to
Hmm.
be with my military spouse, and I'm like, okay, I need a job, and why don't I join the army? But if I'm going to join the army, let's do something cool.
Yeah, for
And so
sure.
I literally had never flown before, did not know like my bachelor's degree is in art.
Mm,
Okay, so this is not was not a comfort zone thing. I just was like, well, that sounds pretty cool. Why don't I do that? And I really didn't look at the can'ts and the limitations and the people who said no, you can't do this, which there were a lot of. I just kind of stayed true to that kind of thought and vision, and it felt right, and had a kind of a visceral reaction when I thought about it.
excellent. So when you say, "All right, I want to fly helicopters," so what is that process like when you join the military? Like from the moment you sign on to the moment you strap in and you're going to take that first flight, obviously someone's beside you. I'm assuming. What's that like time frame? Is it a few months? You're studying first. You're practicing. How does that
Yeah.
work?
So first you actually have to be in the military. So you have to go through, in my case, basic training. Well, first you
Mhm,
have to get through the recruiting part, right? So
mhm,
that and get accepted. So I went from the recruiting station. I had to get a flight physical. I had to take a flight aptitude skills test to prove I had the capability of doing it. I had to pass that flight physical was pretty intense and in depth. And then I had to go through like a review board where they have a panel at a table, and it's kind of almost like a jury, and they're judging you to determine, and they make recommendations that go up to the Pentagon, and the
mm.
Pentagon has a selection board where another group of people look at all your paperwork and decide, decide yes or no. And that's even depending if they even have any spots open, because our government also sells spots in flight school to other governments. And
Mm.
I was in flight school with some pilots from Sweden, or no, Norway, from Norway and other places. So, sometimes they don't even have enough spots because our government's actually sold spots to our allied nations.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. And so you mentioned how you flew some top secret missions. Are have any of those top secret missions been declassified, or can you speak about any of those?
Um, I could tell you, but you know what I'd have to do.
No, I know you probably have to kill me, right?
No, so it was mainly that, we did 2 things. I was flying intelligence missions actually in Germany, and back then my mind frame, right? We didn't have satellite,
Hmm.
communications like we do now. We didn't have cell phone. Well, cell phones were just really starting. So at that time, so what we had is we had equipment that was top secret at that time, that would listen in and scan, because we needed line of sight for it, and we'd scan and listen into cell phone conversations from the air. So I was in the aircraft with linguists and people that were looking for certain languages that were
Hmm.
hotspot languages, Russian, Farsi, different languages at the time. And so I was in the front flying it. So the top secret mission wasn't really me, it was what they were hearing in the back.
Mm,
So,
gotcha.
and then we would sometimes fly generals or VIPs into classified or um, locations, and for different classified meetings that we had to have the clearance for to be able to take them to. So
Very
things
interesting.
like that. Flying a helicopter isn't really top secret classified, but sometimes the mission parameters are, or the people we're flying are.
All right. So can you think about, or what's that one memorable experience that you have in the military flying, like you'll never forget it, like you think about it all the time?
Probably one of the coolest ones that I don't talk about very often is flying in upstate New York with the Canadian military. So, and we had a joint multi ship. So I say that, usual multi ships, 3 to 5 aircraft. We had 14 aircraft in the air at the same time, all flying in kind of a loose formation, for this joint training exercise. So that one was pretty cool. I don't talk about that very often, but you talk about being precise. Like, you know, one person goes out of where they're supposed to be. You've got aircraft in front of you, behind you, beside you. So it was a pretty intense mission mode to fly.
Mm. Yeah, so since you're flying, I mean, a lot, at least recently in the news, a lot of information's been coming out about UFOs, right? Have you ever seen anything like that up in the air? Not, I'm not
Pers-
sure if you could talk about it, but have you
no,
ever seen
I,
anything
I
like that?
personally haven't seen anything that could be classified as a UFO. So it is interesting, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it has been coming out. Back in 2005, 2006. I was in Arizona at the time. It might have been around midnight or so, and I was outside, and I was sitting back in the recliner, and all of a sudden, I see this disc shaped with like a red dot in the middle, and it's literally like bouncing in the sky, not making a sound. And I'm watching it. I'm like, holy shit. And it lasted about like 2 seconds. It was gone into the clouds. Now I know, the military has aircraft that we don't know about, or, all sorts of things that we don't know about, right? So I'm like,
Hmm.
is that a UFO? Well, obviously it's unidentified, but is that a military uh, equipment, or is that an alien equipment? So like once in a while I'll think about that day, and I see these stories online, or most recently in Las Vegas. Not sure if you're up to date on that story, right? Did you hear that story in Las
Hmm.
Vegas? Right,
Hmm.
so like it's crazy to think about sometimes. Obviously I'm not naive, right? Where we, as a species, there's more species out there, right? There was more species before us,
I was just
there's
going to ask you that. What do you believe?
right. Well, I'm open minded to the sense where, like, you know I know we're not just the only ones, right, in the galaxy. It would
Mhm.
be impossible to think we're just the only ones out there. Like we're that special. Please, come on.
Mhm.
And there's been bones, that have been discovered years ago where there's been other like human forms on this earth. I don't know how the name off the tip of my tongue, but that's also been proven out there as well. So you
Mhm.
know the Area 51 we have, right? There's been other landings. It's just wild to think, how far down that rabbit hole do we really want to go? But of course, there's got to be something else out there. Of course, there's something more. But then if we bring that to the forefront, especially when you look at it and you compare religion, how you speak about God and that sense, that could be something where people might not think about. Well, people might like, oh, well, what about God? Did God create those? Did create us? So it's like this crazy topic where maybe some people are ready to accept, some people aren't ready to discuss. And you know if you bring it back to Project Bluebeam, have you ever heard about Project Bluebeam?
Mm-mm, I haven't
So it's
heard that one.
basically it's a US project that wants to display a fake alien invasion to use for whatever purpose they want, right? So if you ever have time, just take a look at it. But it's just wild to think that I wouldn't I'm not conceited enough to think like the human race is the only race out there. Let's be serious about it. So but
Mhm.
that information has been coming out. I'm not sure if you remember during COVID, they actually put it in the bill where they want to start releasing some certain documents, UFO documents. They want to bring it all to their forefront, right, and explain to the world. So why all of a sudden now? I always kind of joke around. Well, that's the last card they're going to play. They're going to play that card sooner or later when things are going haywire. Like, well, there's aliens now, so there you go.
Oh, there you go. So
So
just when you think the world was safe. So now I think that it'd be I can't remember which movie or actor or person said it, but it certainly seems like it would be an awful waste of space,
Mhm.
if we were the only one. So I believe that, but I also think that we're very conceited if we think life forms are going to look like us.
You're right. True that.
So I
Absolutely.
think, it could be very possible that where we breathe oxygen, another life form could be, osmosisly absorb rocks. I mean, I don't know. So
Yeah.
I think we make a lot of assumptions that we shouldn't make about what else is out there.
I agree with that. Um, so
That's a
being in the
little wow, that's a little tangent there, Nicholas.
it is. But it's an interesting topic because certain people when people don't know things, or like, people want the unknown is scary for some, but it's also very interesting for others too. Like some people really want to know what the hell's going on. We could bring back well, what is the meaning of life in a sense, right? So
It
why are
becomes
they
an
why
it
why are
becomes
they out there?
an existential crisis, right?
Right.
What do we really think about ourselves, and who are we, and how do we
We're
fit
just
in
we're
this
just we're
world?
just these small little humans on this earth that's supposedly spinning around in the galaxy, right?
But then think about the flip side of that.
Mm-hmm.
Your DNA. So as a listener, even your DNA only exists in you.
Mm-hmm.
You are absolutely unique, and how
Right.
you fit in this world is unique.
So true. So true. Like we have an immense power in ourselves, and sometimes whether or not we limit our own selves with self-doubt, or we are pushing ourselves forward with you know this fierce confidence that we can do anything, we can accomplish anything too. So it's like it really just comes down to us. Like, how far do we want to go in this world? How far do we want to be successful? What can we do to become better every single day? Like, can anyone be a leader in your opinion?
Yes,
Like, is that something that has to be
100%.
taught, practiced, or are you just born that way?
I think some people are born with a personality styles that do are seen as natural leaders, but I firmly and 100% believe that leadership is a muscle. that
Mm.
you can build, you can work out, you can, increase, and that anyone has the capacity to lead. I think the biggest piece of it is, do they want to? I really believe that a lot of people are in this world on autopilot.
Mm.
They go to work, they get up, they do the same thing they've always done. They go to work, punch a clock, do their job, and come home, and it starts all over again, right? So I think that what we're missing more than anything is awareness and self awareness of how we show up and what we want to do in this world. And that's kind of my mission, is to help people be more aware of themselves and who they are, and want them to want more and be more and show up more than what they currently are.
Yeah, because it's easy to be complacent, right? It's easy to just do enough to get by. Going back 20 something years in high school, yeah, I just did enough by as far as my schooling was concerned, just to graduate, right? I didn't really care. I cared about sports, working, my girlfriend at the time, like those are the things that mattered. As I
Mhm.
grew up a little bit later, I traveled, did some more back in college, and like there was a time where actually I applied myself. And when I applied myself, all of a sudden I'm on the dean's list. Like, back in high school, I would have never thought about even being in honors. But like once you actually commit to something, you can
Mhm.
do anything you truly want to. And I commend you for trying to instill that in others throughout your speaking tours. And what are some of the methods? What do you say? What's your best advice for someone who's sitting there, that kind of place, and they're stuck? They want to do more, but for whatever reason, they can't take that next step.
Oh, I would say, in my book, The Pilot Method, I talk about the P is about potential. And the fact that happens is, there's lots of people who will put you down, who will say you can't do something.
Mm.
I had lots of it happen when I said, "Oh, I'm going to be a pilot." Like, little girl, and try to keep me down because they didn't believe. But the fact is, I think, is that you have to believe in yourself more than others. You have to you have to really kind of find that within you. And sometimes we don't always have that, right? And so we didn't grow up in an environment where that's possible, or we have a negative home life, or someone else is letting us down. And so that's where you come to podcasts like this. You come to other places to kind of find and borrow confidence and belief to help you find what it is that you want to do and who you want to be.
And what is your why? What drives you? What drives you to be better every single day?
I had a coach a long time ago. I'm talking like 15, 20 years ago. I had a coach who um, really helped me reframe this, because I was getting in my own way. So
Hmm.
I wasn't doing the things I knew I was supposed to do to get to be the speaker, right? To be on national tours and big stages and to do all that. And I was getting in my own way. And we were trying to figure out why I was getting in my own way. And she helped me reframe this. And so with her permission, I share this. Is She said, are you put on this, the question to ask is, d- are you put on this earth, are you put on this world to help people or to hurt people? Like, most people aren't going to say they're here to hurt people, right? Maybe we have our true evils in the world, but most people are going to say they're here to help, right? They don't want to hurt anyone else. They want to help. And I want to help. I want to empower. I want to inspire. And she says, but every day you get in your own way and you don't do the things that you're supposed to do. You don't get your messages out in the world. Are you keeping and you're keeping yourself from helping someone? Doesn't that hurt them?
Mm.
And that, so we do that, though. We tend to get in our own way or procrastinate or not do something we know we're supposed to do. And every day you do that, when you withhold your gifts and your best self from this world, from being on a podcast or shooting a video or working on the website and the things that aren't always fun, right? But are necessary to help people. And so every day we don't do our best that we can, we're keeping our best from someone who needs it.
And that's a beautiful way to look at it.
Mhm.
Um,
So now I
because
hit the ground running.
Well, that's a great thing, like finding that motivation every single day and staying disciplined. For me personally, has always been in regards to like being productive. I'm not. I would certainly not consider myself lazy. I don't spend, I don't time in front of television. I might watch some sports, occasionally put on the news, but like overall, I'm either, if I'm in Panama, I'm working all the time, with being on the land or with my kids, trying to build a business. And also through, also with this podcast and trying to become a motivational speaker in the future as well, just besides being on, the interwebs, there's,
Mhm,
it's a full-time job, there's all,
mhm,
it's everything all the time. So time management is very important. I try not to waste days, although it is good just to kind of once in a while take a day just to
mhm,
rejuvenate, right? But it's important to be in the moment, to be present as well. I always try to tell everyone, just slow down sometimes. As much as you want to
mhm.
get done and be successful, try to stay in that moment to appreciate it. And because there's only so much time we all have, right, on this earth too. So try
Yep.
not just to waste it away or wish it away. And we never want to think, I wish I would have did that 5 years ago. I wish I would have done that 10 years ago. Because back when I first built the hostel, I started building the hostel in 2016. I wrote down a bunch of goals, and one of the goals was to become a motivational speaker. At that time, I was consistently listening to Les Brown, a little bit of Tony Robbins, but I was really inspired by Les Brown more so. And like, I didn't listen to music. I created some CDs, and I put in my car, YouTube, all the time, just consistently listening. I was like on
Pre
fire.
pre-podcast days, right?
Yeah. So like finally in this turn of the year in 2023, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take that plunge. I'm going to start, putting out motivational videos. My wife's like, well, why don't you create a podcast too? That way you can reach a bigger audience. You'll meet, amazing people like yourself, and like, and it was a great idea, and I'm glad I did it. So now it's expanded the network a little bit, and it's inspiring me to do more. Obviously there's more on my plate to do. I mean, I still gotta, provide for my family and put food on the table. So like, the balancing act, there's always a
Mhm.
balancing act. So you're always looking for self-improvement, but you still need to provide and live for you and your family and friends. How do you do it?
Oh,
I know you're
well,
very
first
successful right now, but like how
you asked a lot there. So,
yeah.
so first I would say you said something that I say a lot, and is that sometimes you have to slow down to speed up. Sometimes we get so caught up in the multitasking and busyness of being busy that you have to kind of slow down and reassess and reprioritize and step away so that you can have more clarity as to what you want moving forward. So I would say the first thing is, but don't get stuck in that. Like
Yeah.
you can't stay in that too long. Sometimes you need a day off so that you can
Mhm.
come to something with a fresh perspective, right? Sometimes you need to set that new book manuscript I'm working on right now. So you need to set it aside so that way you can look at it with fresh eyes and look at it in a different way. So don't be afraid to slow down, to speed up. And then one of the other things that you said, Nicholas, was about everything. Like there's everything. And I was on a training call with a very well known speaker last night that specializes in customer experience, and we were talking about how in the speaking industry, so as a motivational speaker, it's not one thing. Right? You think, oh, I'll just do my content. No, you're also a business owner. You're
Mm.
also the contract negotiator. You're also the IT person on a virtual presentation. You're also the lighting tech. You're also your hair and makeup person for us women that have more hair, more work there that we have to do. It's not just one thing. You're the webmaster or at least working with a webmaster, and you have to have some guidance and direction. You're your branding manager. I mean, there's so many things. Yes, you can outsource all that, but not when you're first starting.
No.
Right? And so it's how does it all congruent? How does it all work together? Because it's not one thing. It's everything. It's when you go to the event, how are you working with the event planner? Is the event planner excited to work with you, or they're like, "Ugh," are you clear on what you need on stage? And so I heard a horror story this last week about a speaker that yelled at the meeting professional because the right items weren't on their stage. Like, are there, and the meeting planner walked off stage, looked at the next speaker who was standing in the wings to wait and to do their
Says
rehearsal,
you're up.
and says, well, they said, we're never hiring them again.
Yeah.
So I mean, how are you coming across? Are you congruent in who you are and how you show up at home before you go on stage as well as on stage? So I
Mhm.
think that's having that authenticity as to who you really are, and the care. And I mean, before we started recording this podcast, I was on the call with the client and they're like, we've never hired a speaker before and we're really glad we hired you.
Awesome.
Like, that's what you
Fantastic.
wanna hear, because I care about their event. Like, how can I make it better?
Mhm.
They don't hire you only for your story. They hire you for the experience.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a you're not everyone can speak in front of a crowd, right? Isn't that like one of the biggest fears, and yet you do it, right? So like you face that fear for most, right? Like public speaking. People are afraid of public
And
speaking. Like it's like
and the
I
the
don't get
advice
it.
the advice from the Brady Bunch to look imagine the audience in your underwear, that's not good. Don't do that, right?
You get
That's
distracted.
distracting. Don't do that. Don't do that. So, and not really, not a good thing. So, here's what I've figured out about speaking is once you know your content, I think that's the biggest thing. Once you know your content, like you know what you're going to say, your stories, your learning outcomes from each story, and you bring it all, pulled it all together in a way, and you've practiced it and practiced it and practiced it and practiced it. Not so it's rehearsed, but so that you know what comes next. You're
Right.
not having to think about the story or what you're sharing. What you're doing on stage is you're focused and thinking about the audience. And when you have that heart-centered connection to the audience when you're on stage, you are loving on them. You are showing them how much you care about them through that preparation and through everything else that you've done to get to that stage. When you are focused solely and wholly on them, that's the connection piece. That's where that magic is. And then
Yeah, I
if
was about to say magic. Yeah.
yeah, and then somebody sneezes in the audience, I say bless you without even losing my spot because I know what's next.
Hmm.
It's about creating that muscle memory, even like just in the physicality of your mouth, but also in your thinking and brain. You know what you could. And here's the other thing: if you mess up, they don't know. They don't know your story. So, but making it about them instead of you. When you're in your head instead of your heart, that's where we get nervous.
Hmm.
That's where we stutter and don't always say the right things, or you get those butterflies, and I've heard people say, "Oh, the butterflies are now flying in formation. I control the butterflies." To me, it's not nerves. It's anticipation on how I can pour into them and help them be better, the audience and their experience, and help them be, present and focused and aware, and shift them into some action that the client wants.
All right. Absolutely, that's fantastic. So right now we are just about halfway through 2023. What is on your radar for the rest of the year? What are your big goals? Do you write down goals all the time? I mean,
Oh
obviously
yeah.
your mind's always thinking, right? Do you write
If,
down your
if you
yearly
could if
goals,
you could
daily
see
goals?
Yeah, if you could see behind this over here, if you could see, you would see I've got white paper, like the big sticky poster tack paper. And
Hmm.
I've got papers all over the walls on this side of the office, and have, short term, long term projects, all kinds of things like really mapped out. So for me, I have a brand new demo video, like, they call it sizzle reel, preview video, demo
Hmm.
video, basically a commercial about my speaking that just launched last week. So I'm super excited. So if you go look up Elizabeth McCormick pilot speaker on YouTube, you can see that new video. I'm super excited. It's phenomenal. A few About 2 years ago, I had a speakers bureau who booked speakers come see me in an event. And they came up to me afterwards and they said, I guess it was about a year and a half ago. And she came up to me and she said, I've always heard that you've been great. She's never booked me, right? I invited her to come see me so that potentially could book me. She was, I've never seen you speak before, but I've heard you were great, but I didn't understand, and your videos don't convey how much audience interaction and experiential learning you bring to an event. And I thought, ding, there's a tap on the shoulder from the universe telling me you need new video that can convey that. So I'm really happy and excited with this video because it finally does convey the kind of experience I bring that's different to an event. So that just came out. And with that, we're going to have a new website and then a new introduction video and then new materials. So everything kind of is being retouched
So you've been
and
working
relooked at.
working really hard on all those things, I'd imagine.
And then my twentieth book will come out. The plan is right now is that it comes out in November.
Nice. And what's the title?
Just Fly.
Just Fly. I like
But
that.
fly's an acronym.
For?
So fly means first lead yourself.
Right? That's perfect because if you're not leading yourself first, then you're being led, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always preach, at least my little girl, she's 5. Because I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. I'm like, Serafina, be the leader. Be the leader because he's gonna follow you, right? You gotta be the leader. And sometimes she's into it. Sometimes she's like, I don't want to be the leader today. I'm like, well, you gotta do it anyway. You gotta do it anyways, right? Because your brother's gonna copy you, right?
Right. But I think it's also good to know how to follow
Yeah.
because I think the world needs leaders and followers, and actually good leaders know how to follow. They know when to follow.
Hmm.
They know when to step back and let someone else lead. So I think, leadership is so complex yet simple.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I have a simple framework for leadership that there's 3 things. If you just do these 3 things, you'll lead better. So the first is communicate, right? Be more intentional and aware in how you communicate. And like flying a helicopter, it's a two-way transfer, right? I have the controls, you have the controls, I have the controls. Somebody has to be on the controls. There's no autopilot flying a helicopter, but there's also no autopilot in your communication, right? So it's always present and being forward and being clear and concise. And then the second one, so communicate, the second one's aviate, and that means taking action, right? So if you communicate you're going to do something, you've got to do it. And if you take action without communicating, you create a set of problems,
Mm.
right? There's expectation problems. So they work together. So taking action and doing the things you say you're going to do is super important. And then the last one is navigate. And that's about being clear about where you're going, what you're doing. And, even if you're working with someone else or in a project or something else, are the outcomes clear? Because if you don't have clarity in what your outcomes are, then it's really hard to communicate and take action to get there. And sometimes what happens is we're not clear where we're going and we take action and communicate and do all these things here and we realize we're climbing a mountain and we're on the wrong one, right?
Or going around in circles, all that kind of jazz, right?
Mhm. But sometimes we take that communication and action and it's leading us in a different direction than we want and it's better. So then you would adjust your navigation, your goals, your plans, your objectives because it can organically kind of move you somewhere even better than what you had planned.
Right. And I think circling back is like staying true to yourself along the way will easily get you to where you're supposed to be, right? Like so all these things happen in I'm sure in your life and my life as well. When
Mhm.
you are true to yourself, chasing your passion, all these doors open up and like, how did I meet this person? How did this happen? Like it just magically appears because you are aligned. It's almost like you are aligned with the universe, going exactly where
Mhm.
you're supposed to be, being true to yourself. And I think that's the beautiful thing about life.
And here's the thing with that alignment though, if you're not aware, it comes right back to what we talked about first, right? If you're not aware of who you are in the moment, if you're not aware of who you are and what's being called to you, of who you want to be and how you want to grow and what you want to do with that. Like if you don't have that awareness from the beginning, it's really hard to find the alignment along the way.
Absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful. So let me just, I guess, change the subject just a little bit because I know you're in the military. Um, eh, uh, how would you, if you look at the macro view, a geopolitical view, how would you describe the current state of affairs for our country right now and our military?
Mm. So I really don't go political. I
Okay,
don't go there, because no matter what I say right now,
you're not going to make everyone
I'm
happy.
gonna tick half the people off, right? I mean, and that's probably the only thing I will say
Okay,
is, why is everyone so quick to be judgmental and jump and be angry at somebody else for having their own beliefs and views and opinions?
yeah, that's a really good question. Like, you believe that? Okay, that's good. You want to act that way. I mean, as long as, in my opinion, as long as you're not hurting anyone or breaking the
Hmm.
law, doing it in essence, you can
Hmm.
believe what you want to believe. Whatever, it's your life. Go for
I,
it.
I think we need to cherish the differences, and we need to respect, um, that everybody's not going to think the way you think. We don't want this entire world to all think the same way, or there would never be change for better. There would never
Mhm.
be, new or different things. So, for me personally, I watch both ends of the spectrum's news. It's amazing how different they are in their opinions and the way they report, but there's got to be something in the middle,
Right.
right? There's got to be something in the middle that's true. And then I usually go to the international news. I'll watch BBC, Sky News, Al Jazeera networks to find some truth when they're
Right.
reporting US events. Because it used to be we would have balanced reporting and both sides would be represented in a newscast, and we've gone to sensational news where everything is sensationalized and polarizing, and because they're all they care about are ratings now, not the truth. And I think
Right.
that's a disservice to our country and our people.
Yeah, it kind of helps further the divide amongst us, really, right? In a way, because, in my opinion, they don't want people to. uh, it's conquer and divide. It's a common theme, right, throughout history,
Hmm.
right? It's easy to control the people, the masses that way. But at the same time, we are all similar. I've traveled. I'm sure you've traveled a lot as well, being in the military and speaking events. Like, we're all human beings. We all have differences, but we're all, when you break it down, we're all, we're alike. So. Um, I There's really not much difference between all of us besides our DNA, like you said, right? That's our one unique thing. But beyond that, we're all human beings, and we all have the ability to love each other, to all the emotions. We can feel all the emotions, right? We have the ability to think and become exactly who we are, and follow our dreams. So, there's really not much. There shouldn't be that division, between,
Hmm.
race or sexual orientation or the color of our skin, right? We're just human beings. We're sharing this space and time, and that's a beautiful thing. Like, in my opinion, we're all
Hmm.
here. We're all here together at the same time.
So I think I actually saw a speech by the Dalai Lama at an event, and a World Humanity event. And one thing that he said really stuck out on me, and he's like, we need to look for uh, the commonality in humanity.
True.
Like, stop looking at the differences and pointing out the differences, and look for what we all have in common. We all bleed the same color. We all have, hopes and dreams and loves and likes, and have a shared experience on this planet. So if we focus more on what we have in common than what we have different, wouldn't the world be a better place?
Yeah, we be certainly heading in the right direction for sure. The world's always turning, always spinning, and we're going along for the ride, and we're going to try to make the best of it, and that's all we can do,
And
right?
we're all getting older. How did that happen?
Yeah, I try not to think about it. I just turned 40 this past year, the only time it really registers with me besides that age is like when I see like my kids or my nieces and nephews graduating from college or high school. It's like, hold on,
Hmm.
what is going on here? And I got I
My
gotta I gotta I gotta stop and look for a second. Yeah.
My baby, so it just graduated from high school and is about to go off to college. So we'll be empty nesters, and it just seems like we just had him,
Yeah.
right? It just
Yeah.
seems like he was that wonderful 3 and 4 year old age, running around, being independent,
Hmm.
trying to exert the independence, right, and be push the boundaries. And now all of a sudden he's 19 and going off to college. So the time goes really fast. Time is precious. I always say you have the two most valuable resources you have um, are your time and your health. So I'll also add in for like business, I would say money, but time is money. Like
Right.
with time, you make more money, right? So money really falls under time, but your two most valuable resources on a personal level are your time and your health, and you only have a finite amount of each.
True. So
And
true.
a lot of times we focus on, making money, and we forget to spend time on our health. So I just really be more aware of those two things. And like I'm one of those that's like I'm in, oh, time for my checkup, going for my checkup, whatever checkup that might be, right? Because we have different ones as women too. But whatever checkup I need to go, I'm going because I want to be here. Like my dental work, my getting my teeth cleaned and doing the things I need to do, that's important because I want to be here. I want to be here for my kids' kids, but also for my professionally, for my audiences and for my events, and be there fully present at my best self. And in order for me to be at my best self for my work for you, I have to take care of me first. And it's not selfish.
No, it's not.
It's necessity. But a lot of times people look at it it's secondary, it's not important. I'll work out when I get to it, right? But the problem is we don't get to it. So, how can you make you a priority in your life? And let me tell you, this is super important for Nicholas, your kids, and everything else. Because if you, and the other adult role models in your children's life, if they're not showing up, making themselves a priority, what are we teaching to our kids?
Absolutely. I
What are
completely
we
agree with
teaching to our
that.
kids that it's not important to take care of yourself? Like what kind of example are we leading for our children and our children's friends and you know anyone that has any youth in their life? You're an example. So how are you showing up? And are you showing up at your best self for your work, your home, your family, your friends, your church, whatever it is that's important to you? Because you decide how you show up. And to me, it's non-negotiable to take care of myself so I can be at my best for everything else.
Yeah, because we only have one body, right? Throughout this life experiences, we're only gonna get one. So I always
It's funny.
say,
Yeah, go ahead.
just take care of yourself. This is my one vehicle for this ride.
I like that. I like that. And here's the other thing. I hear a lot, I'm going to do this cuz you only live once. No. I always when I hear that I like wait. You live every day. You only die once.
Truth.
Right? So at least in the physical sense of of the experience that you have, you only die once, but your life, your living, it's an everyday thing. But again, if you're on autopilot and all of a sudden a year's gone by, 2 years has gone by, your children are grown, and all of a sudden you're like, where did all that go?
Yeah,
How present are you?
that's all for me. That's one thing I hope I never have that regret of like wasting time or wasting life because I'm a firm believer like we only got one shot at this. We're gonna make mistakes along the way, and that's perfectly fine. That's how we learn. You have to fail before you succeed in life, and that's great.
Mhm.
But at the same time, let's enjoy it, okay? But let's also help others along the way and take care of yourself because, like you said, leading by example, especially when you have children, like that's the first thing they see. So if
Mhm.
you're letting yourself go or if you're abusing certain substances, they're going to see that, they're going to grow up with that, and that's not what we want our youth to see on a on a normal basis because they are the future. I mean, I've heard it before, and I say it like we want our children to become better than who we are, right? We want them to run
Mhm.
past us, right? We want them to be great. We want them to do great things, and hopefully they do. And if they don't, at least they tried, you know. And I'm not a perfect person by any measure. I've certainly made many mistakes along the way, like most of us. But you know, I am, I am I've always tried to stay true to myself and what I'm trying to accomplish in life, and I'm not gonna waste any time. I may take a day off here or there, but that's just to rejuvenate my. We have to. We get tired sometimes, but at the same time, like, just go for it. I've quit drinking alcohol. Maybe I'm going on like 5, 6 years. Like, not because I was an alcoholic, it's just because it just served no purpose anymore. Like, one's
Mhm.
not enough, or two or three, then I'm kind of like a little groggy. I want to go to bed, or like if especially having kids, if I drink a 6 pack, next thing I'm waking up in the morning, I'm like, dude, why am I doing this to myself? I don't want to waste another day of my life ever being hungover again.
Mhm.
Now that you want to have a drink, that's great. Glass of wine, that's great. I don't care. I'm not judging anyone.
No,
I'm saying
no.
personally, that's where
I
I'm at. Like,
I like a social mixed drink, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
I to
absolutely. I
me
agree.
to me but I will admit, being a pilot, I'm a little bit of a control freak, shockingly, I know. So I like don't like being out of control. So I never drink to any excess. I
Mhm.
think that's, anything in moderation. But it's funny, but thinking about our children, like for me, being a parent, it was all about my job as a parent is to equip my children to be good adults. It's not about me being a good mom or dad, right? It's not about
Mhm.
me being their friend. It's about them having the skills and the critical thinking and capacity to be a good adult someday. And it seems really weird when you look at a little kid and you're thinking, how am I going to make them a better adult? Right. But, letting them make safe mistakes, right?
Yeah, I
Letting
like how
them
you
do
put that,
things.
safe mistakes.
Yeah, safe mistakes. Obviously, you want to keep them from sticking their finger in an outlet, but there's things that we can do as parents that help equip our children to be better adults. And I think if we looked at that kind of that's that navigation, right? That long term planning, it really helps dictate the kind of things that you do and what's important and what's not important when you're working with and teaching your children. And so for me, but it really starts with example. I think children learn from what we do, not what we say. And there needs to be that congruency between what we do and what we say.
So, so true. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining me today on the Conquering Hill podcast. Please tell the audience where they can find you.
So I am really easy to find. I am Pilot Speaker on everything social, Pilot Speakers, my speaking website. And then can we give everyone a little gift since they stayed till the end?
Yeah, why not?
So I have a free online course. It's not free. If you went to my website to buy it, it will charge you $99. But because you were listening to the Conquering Hill podcast and on here with me, I'm going to give it to everybody for free. So if you use this link, it will override the pricing to a free. And it's a course called Master Your Motivation. It has confidence building strategies, 30 ways to be motivated in 30 minutes. None of them cost money. And coming up, I'm going to have modules on work life balance and attention and focus added. And that'll complete all the course material. But you can get that course by going to Soar Your Life. So SOAR, like flying, not the muscle sore.
Hmm.
SOAR, soaryourlife.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Thank you.
And if you would like to support the podcast, please visit Amazon.com and search Conquering Hill, 50 writing prompts for a dream chaser. And also visit Etsy.com and search Conquering Hill for all our gear. Thank you so much.